All right, we're going to finish out chapter 23 today and probably get into 24. So let me read where we're at right now. We're in 29. I will not drive them out before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and wild beasts multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out before you until you have increased and possessed the land. And I will set your border from the Red Sea to the Sea Philistines, and from the wilderness to Euphrates, for I will give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me, for if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. All right, Inez, would you read 29?
I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you.
Okay, so God's telling them ahead of time, it's not going to be a year. They're going to drive them all out. Why?
Beast will take over.
Yeah. You wipe everybody out, you've got nobody to keep the beasts down, and all the crops will take over, the weeds will take over. So this will be a process. He's letting them know ahead of time. Does anybody remember how long it took them before they actually built the altar at Shechem? 6 years. So that was the 7th year, the Shemitah year, when they rested from kicking all the Hivites and Jebusites and all that stuff, not Jebusites, but Hivites and all them other rights out. Okay, verse 30.
Little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land.
And I think that's interesting that the land has an olive top before it. Haaretz. 31.
And I will set your bonds from the Red Sea to the sea, Philistia from the desert to the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you.
Okay, so this is from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and the Euphrates. And this is the Euphrates River right here, way up north, goes right through the middle of Iraq. So they're going to inhabit all the way to that border. Okay, and there's another map that shows it like this, all the way down into that area, all the way to the river Egypt, which would probably be the Nile. Personally, I think it'd probably look like that more. I think they will encompass the whole Arabia Peninsula, and I think that is where they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. So, and how did the Queen of Sheba, way down there in the bottom, around Yemen, how did she know about all this stuff and what God of Israel did for Israel? She's way down there in the bottom of that little boot-looking thing, peninsula. But anyway, that's what I think the border will probably more closely resemble when it gets inhabited. But some people say that this already happened during Solomon's time, because in 1 Kings 4:20-21 it says Judah and Israel were as many as the sand of the sea, which is what was the promise to Abraham. They ate and drank and were happy. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. So some people kind of attribute that to saying that that's already happened. I kind of don't think so, because it doesn't even include the Arabia Peninsula or anything. It doesn't include the south border. So anyway, there's an olive top between your territory and bounds and inhabitants dwellers. Okay. All right, and verse 32.
You shall make no covenant with them, nor with their gods.
Why not?
No God before me.
Have no other gods before me. You make a covenant with their God, you're just siding with their God, right? which is man-made. Can't do anything. When your idol falls over, you got to stand it back up. And that's a God which you made. All right, 33.
They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you.
All right, here off top is before me. So he is the God Elohim, and you are not to serve their olive top gods. Okay, snare is mokesh, and it means trap, snare, or barbs. Okay, and I think it's interesting that Judges speaks of people being thorns to Israel, thorns and false gods being a snare in Judges 2:2-3, and you shall make no covenant with the inhabitants of this land. You shall break down their altars, but you have not obeyed my voice. What is this you have done? So now I say, I will not drive them out before you, but they shall become thorns in your sides, and their God shall be a snare to you. So that kind of fits that context of what those are pointing to, what thorns and snares are. But I think it's interesting that in Exodus 20, when God gave us the law, one of the first things he said was, don't serve other gods. And here we're closing out chapter 23 and saying, don't serve other gods. So.
Can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's incredibly serious part of the Bible. I think these gods still exist, although they're not gods at all, but fallen angels, demonic beings. And the boundaries are so important. And I read it like this: I will set boundaries from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, which is the Mediterranean Sea, I believe. The Red Sea is not the Mediterranean. And he's setting the boundaries from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Mediterranean Sea, or the Sea of the Philistines, from the desert to the river. And then if I read it backwards, from the river to the sea is where they don't want boundaries currently, which is these. Maybe I'm really getting out there, but I think that's this demonic beings mocking the fact that they were driven out and didn't want to be driven out, and now they're mocking God, saying they'll drive out Israel from the river to the sea, which is these boundaries of the land that they believe belongs to them.
That's interesting. I never thought about that, but just reversing that order brings that into light, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they use us as weapons. But their intent is to annihilate every last person, not leave anybody left. So now we see in Iran, because they didn't accomplish what they wanted recently in current times, now they just lash out at who they can kill.
And that's coming from who? Who's leading all of that? Satan.
Those ones that
the evil
they have no love for people. I mean, their love for people, it was to kill the most innocent in the most heinous kind of ways.
Yes.
Now there's, I don't know what the figure is now, but yesterday it was, they estimate that over 12,000 people have been massacred in Iran on the other side of the Euphrates.
Have they stopped that? Because they said they would, some of the stuff I've heard said that they were going to quit that, and that's why we backed off.
Well, they were gonna hang 400 people in the morning of yesterday, and they're saying they did, but they were gonna,
They're saying they did or didn't?
did not.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard they talked about, I heard it was 800 people they were gonna hang. There was a bunch of them.
Well, yeah.
So when we see, when I see stuff where they wanna change the borders from the river to the sea, or from the sea to the river, then you know that, then you can predict that they're gonna lash out.
Yeah.
I might be making a wild statement, but
Well, we are, in predicament throughout the world. We have a lot of chaos that's happening. And, that's not from our God. Chaos is not from our God. It's from the other one.
Thank you for saying that, because that was another idea that was going through my head when he was reading that about them saying from the river to the sea. And that helped me a lot to understand that. Thank you.
yeah, well, that didn't come from God.
Right.
River to the sea.
Yeah,
That's right.
the people who started saying that just recently were putting babies in microwaves, so that's not
Yeah, that is sad how brutal.
from the Holy Spirit.
Right. Yeah,
And it
that
goes
is
way
not.
back to this too.
You're
They
right.
were doing brutal things.
That's why God said, push out the Hivites, whoever all these ites are. I keep forgetting all the names, but
Yeah, I don't think it's ancient history. I think that's what I was trying to say.
well, and that's a good point, because God destroyed the earth the first time with a flood, because I'm sure this was happening on before that. We think there was only a handful of people, maybe a couple hundred. No, I bet you there were millions. And I bet you they were just in the same predicament and as we are today. Okay, it was, about what, 1600 years or whatever before the flood happened, and God said they only did what was evil in their heart continually. And God destroyed the earth with water. He remade it, just like in Genesis 1, the mountains rose out of the water, and God established a new creation through Noah. He's kind of like another Adam, if you will. All the same stuff that happened to Noah, that happened to Adam, happened to Noah. So, we can go through and look at that, and God gave him the same commands: be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth. And the same things that he told Adam, he told Noah. And we ought to go through that one of these days. It's just going backwards, but Genesis 8 and 9 is a huge chiasm that pulls a lot of this stuff out and understanding, and you'll see how it actually points to Christ. But anyway, any more comments on 23 before we?
Well, I was just gonna add that this borders area that you showed a map of is the most coveted area in the world by everyone,
Yeah.
which is unusual because it's mostly desert.
Isn't that wild?
It's got a lot of black gold underneath.
That's right. That's right. Something else that's even, I can bring even one step further, is the most expensive piece of property in the world is the Mount of Olives. Every little 7 foot by 3 foot or 4 foot section is the most cost for land there was. Everybody's dying to get in there. It's a big graveyard. So people pay probably hundreds of thousands of dollars for this little place to put your coffin or your grave. It's unreal. But everybody's, huh?
Where Jesus is gonna put his foot.
That's right. That's right. And the dead in Christ will rise first, and then we who are alive will rise and meet him in the air. So it's interesting.
It don't matter where you're at, he'll find you.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Bottom of the sea or on the moon or wherever.
It doesn't matter. If you're in the Lord, you're going to be reunited with your body, and it ain't going to be like the way you found it, right? It's going to be totally rejuvenated.
Yeah.
All right, restored. It should be the correct term, I think. All right. Anybody else?